Hey, welcome back to another Habs Podcast show with the hockey coach Francis directly for the beautiful country of Thailand on amazing, great Thursday night, November 21st, 2024. Almost the end of the week. Hopefully, you have ready for your last work day of the week tomorrow, Friday. And then, if you're watching hockey tonight, 10 game is in action tonight. 20 team of the NHL already. 7 of them, I believe, are right now playing. And we have a couple of big surprises. First of all, the biggest golden night beat the Ottawa Senators by the score 2-0. And then we have the crazy game, the Lightning versus the Blue Jacket. The Tampa Bay Lightning scored 3 goals to take the lead 3-0. One of them is from Cam Atkinson. Remember, Atkinson have a great career with the Columbus Blue Jacket. So then we have a goal, 3-1. Then we have an injury, Kucherov. Since that, it's 5-5 between Lightning and the Blue Jackets. So a festival of the goal. And we just about 5 minutes remaining on the second period. So really interesting. The big game of the night for me is the Devil versus the Carolina Hurricane. The score is 2-1 for the Devils over the Hurricane at this moment. That's pretty much the big game right now in NHL. Finally, Boston scored, take the lead 1-0 against the team Utah. I will give you all the update when RJ Calabo will be in the house. We welcome everybody. Don't forget, please, to click on the likes. Tonight, guys, we have the big subject, but we have different subject. We'll talk about, of course, the Montreal Canadiens, couple of news around the NHL. But the subject tonight, guys, is the welcome or the return of Patrik Laine and RHP. From that, what do you look like the lines for the Montreal Canadiens? Both players will be a part of the lineup at the end of the month or maybe at the beginning of December. So this is the biggest subject of the night we got for you guys. Of course, going to have different conversation about the Laval Rocket play last night. And then Evan Demidov. Ah, ah, ah. I watched the game, guys, one day, every game. And when they play late game at the KHL, it's 19:30 Russian time. So for me in Thailand, it starts at 11:30 p.m. So the game finished at 2 o'clock. And I'm watching the game like exactly what you watch the game on your TV. And I cut and I record all the ship of Demidov and I'm just waiting. And then I report between period everything on Twitter. And every freaking first period, he played approximately 4 or 5 minutes. And then he benched Dimitrov. Anyway, I'm going to talk about him the next couple of minutes. I don't want to, talk everything about Dimitrov right away. But that's happening to me. So I go to bed every night at 2 o'clock a.m. With Dimitrov. I get upset. I cannot go to bed right away. I'm getting upset. That's not fun. Anyhow, a show without him, it will not be the same. He's back in the house. The co-host of the weekly report for the Montreal Canadiens is with me tonight. But we have a special guest for the first time. Is in the house. He's directly from Nova Scotia. And he just started a YouTube channel. And his name is Devin Maxwell. So we're going to welcome both of them. Join me live tonight as a co-host of the Habs Nation show. Here we go.
Hello, Devin. Hello, Coach. Welcome, Devin.
Hi, Intertap. Salut, Coach.
How you doing, Mr. Devin? Directly from Nova Scotia. How's the weather in the east of Canada?
Not as good as it is in Thailand, I'm sure. Winter is on its way. It's getting colder every day. And it gets dark at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I don't want to give you any flashbacks or nightmares of when you lived in Quebec, but that's what we're dealing with here in Nova Scotia, and I don't like it.
Yeah, it's a cold weather there too. Mr. Tap, Toronto looking still on the green.
Rain. It's been a lot of rain the last couple of days, and it looks like tomorrow as well. And temperature's starting to go down, so you know what's coming up around the corner. I don't like winter very much, but we live with it. That's all. Deal with it.
Awesome to hear that. So you ready to rock and roll the Montreal Canadiens conversation tonight for sure. And we're going to talk about before we move on to the talking with Devin. We're going to welcome everybody in the chat. We have a few people knock the door tonight. Of course, we have Mr. Sebastian back in the house. Cindy is in the house tonight. Cindy, big fan of the Toronto Maple Leafs. welcome back. LDP, guys, we have to take a moment here. So LDP is a big fan of the Buffalo Sabres. So I have on my fantasy hockey UPL. And UPL struggled. UPL got an injury. And yesterday, LDP predict the Buffalo Sabres is going to win 3-0 against the Kings. I'm a little bit nervous. I said, do I dress him? Do I put him on the bench? And then I put another goalie, everything like that. So we let him get. Maybe LDP could be lucky and can maybe win the game over there. But the Buffalo Sabres shoot out the Kings yesterday for the score 1-0. And LDP with a big prediction of that one. So I lead barely over Marco during the week, Mr. Sebastian, Mr. Marco, well, not that, but that's happening there. So LDP, good job, my friend. I need to a little bit more confident about the Buffalo Sabres. But we have Sebastian number 2 back in the house. A long time, Mr. Sebastian. Maybe he's just back from Tokyo. I don't know. Sebastian, hopefully you're doing well. Steve G from Colorado watching the Colorado Avalanche versus the Washington Capitals. 1-1. Rantanen scored his 13th goal of the season to tie the game 1-1 between them. Pierre-Luc Dubois scored his second goal of the year for the Washington. We know we're going to talk about the Ovechkin the next couple of minutes. The co-host of the Notebook, Marco Larrabee, knocked the door tonight. Marco, hopefully you're doing well. Thanks to be with our Canadian show. AK with the Edmonton Oilers is in the house tonight. AK, hopefully doing well. So far, N26 is in the house. Welcome back. Harry is in the house. And Ozzy Calabro with all the news. He gave us all the information what's going around the league. And then we have, that's it. I think everybody, CG, everybody talk about what's going on with the Montreal Canadiens. So that's what we got, guys, on that show. So first of all, we welcome you, Mr. Devin. Thanks to be patient with all the news we have to talk about before we start the show, honestly. And maybe give us a bit more resume, your bio, and how did you start your YouTube channel? They give us how we can reach you, also to talk with you, Mr. Devin.
Yeah, my name is Devin. I am from Nova Scotia, like Coach said. I've been a Montreal Canadiens fan all my life. I feel very fortunate to be a Canadiens fan. Both my uncle played in the Boston Bruins organization in the 1950s, and my father also played in the Boston Bruins. No, Stan Maxwell.
Stan Maxwell.
Not Brad. Yeah, my uncle was in the Bruins organization in the 50s, and then my dad played junior hockey and was in the Bruins organization in the 60s. So fortunately for me, my grandfather got his hands on me before anybody else did and turned me into a Canadiens fan when I was young. So I've been a Habs fan all my life. I lived in Montreal for most of my childhood. I was born here in Nova Scotia, but I did grow up in Montreal. But I did return to go to university, and I've lived here in Halifax for the last 25 years. I got into doing some of this online sports business about a little over a year ago, sort of. I don't know. I was doing mostly TikTok lives. I did a lot of TikTok lives talking about the World Juniors and things like that, and got a bit of a following over there. But to be honest with you about it, it got a little bit. It's too toxic doing lives on TikTok for me. I just find there's too much trolling going on, and you spend more of your time sort of sorting through all the BS and not actually talking enough hockey. And so I decided to give that up, and I started my YouTube channel about a month and a half ago. I do a show after every Canadiens game called Habs After Dark. I hope to do some other stuff as well, but for now, that's what I'm doing. And I go live about 15 or 20 minutes after every game and give a bit of a review on the game, and then talk in the comments to anybody who wants to have a chat, whether it's about the Canadiens or otherwise. And I'm new to it. Unlike you, Coach, you're a veteran. I'm pretty new to it, but I do appreciate you for having me on. If you want to find me anywhere on social media, just look for Recliner Sports, Recliner Sports 4, or Recliner Sports. I'm on Instagram. I'm on TikTok. I'm on Twitch. I'm on Discord. I'm on YouTube. I'm on all the stuff. I'm on all the things. But if you look up Recliner Sports, you should be able to find me. And the idea behind Recliner Sports and the name is based on sports for grown-ups. And again, not just grown-ups because you're old in age, but grown-ups because you act like a grown-up, and we can have civil conversations about sports without having to hate each other because we're fans of different teams. So that's kind of what my goal is with doing all of this, is that we can have good, fun, civil conversations with each other, regardless of who we cheer for. So that's a little bit about me.
Awesome. Thanks for joining us. We appreciate a lot. And our top, il ça, Jacques Plante Play ici. Aurel Joliette, invité en date pour you. Do you remember the Voyageur à Nova Scotia?
I do. I went to Dalhousie Law School as well, so I heard a bunch of stories when I was at Dalhousie Law School about Ken Dryden studying in the library at the Dalhousie Law School while he played for the Voyageurs. The old Halifax Forum. We still play beer league hockey at the Halifax Forum, which is where the Voyageurs won so many of their championships, and where great players like Larry Robinson and Bob Gainey and all the greats played there before they played in Montreal. So I didn't live here when they were at their peak. I unfortunately moved here when it was the Quebec Citadels, which were not nearly as exciting to watch. But yeah, no, I've heard the stories, and it's a pretty great history here in Halifax. A great connection with the Montreal Canadiens.
Yeah, great story within Nova Scotia for sure. And after that.
Yeah, I just wanted to add, I can definitely attest to being in Devin's podcast a number of times and just conversing with him in the chat as well as others. It's actually a very relaxing group that you've collected so far, in terms of offering very good questions and getting good comments back from you, Devin. I really appreciate that. I know Coach has spent, this is what, your 5th year now, Coach?
Yep.
You've been, and he's really done a great job in terms of developing the channel and fostering a really good neighborhood of people that come here, and people are very knowledgeable and have awesome opinions. We can always differ in opinions in terms of what's happening with the Canadiens and where they are to go, but I think it's the respect that needs to be always commanded and brought to the forefront. I was just wondering, Devin, maybe because 2 features that you do that I really enjoy, maybe you can elaborate on those a little bit. One is you do the A team after each game, and maybe if you can explain that, and more importantly, the report card.
Yeah, I mean, the A team for me is sort of my attempt to sort of do a 3 stars kind of thing, but not the 3 stars, just trying to be a little bit different. The A team is kind of obviously a tribute to the old television show, which we old guys remember. And, sort of a reflection of us being, Recliner Sports, a little bit of the older generation, I guess. The advantage to the A team is it allows me to pick 4 players instead of just 3. Which, sometimes is easy, sometimes is hard to find 4 guys that played really well through the better part of the first part of this year. But yeah, it's essentially the 4 guys that I feel like delivered on that particular night, the 4 guys who showed up and gave it everything they had, whether it's, on the scoreboard or whether it's, contributing in other ways. It's a little bit something different. It's a bit of a gimmick. It's a little bit something that I hope will make me a little bit different from everybody else. The report card is something that I kind of had developed in my mind, going back to the beginning of the rebuild when, obviously, for people who are as into watching the Montreal Canadiens as we are, it can become frustrating when they're not winning on a more regular basis. And so for me, I'm fascinated by the rebuild, and I'm fascinated by what the Montreal Canadiens are doing right now. And for me, it is sort of, how do I judge this team? If I'm not going to judge them on wins and losses, what can I look at after a game? What can I look to after a game? What can I go back and see? Did they do this? Did they do that in this game to determine whether or not, we can deem that game to have been successful or not? Because frankly, I mean, over the last 2 years, there have been games where, they've lost but you feel pretty good about where they're progressing to. Conversely, there's also going to be games where they win, but you may not feel as happy about it, right? You may say, well, they won, but they didn't really play that well. So for me, I look at I changed it up a little bit this year. So this year I look at obviously I look at 3 goals against or 3 goals for, right? Traditionally, if you allow 240 or less goals in a season, you probably make the playoffs. If you score more than 240 goals, you probably make the playoffs. If you do both of those things, you're almost certainly going to be in the playoffs. So if the Canadiens allow 3 or fewer goals, they get a passing grade. If they score more than 3 goals or 3 or more goals, then they also get a passing grade. And the other stuff is a little bit more philosophical. Did they bring effort? Did they bring energy? Did they show pride? Did they work through the entire game? Did they play an entire 60 minutes? Is this game, an improvement on where they've been, of late? Like, so for example, the last couple games obviously have been quite positive, because they've shown progress from where they were over the last, month or so, that they seem to be coming out of it. But again, we look for them to do that consistently, right? They can play 2 good games, but if they go back to, the way they were a week ago, then maybe they're not progressing as much as we thought they were. So progress, I think, is a big thing that I look for on my report card. So that's 2 things that I do on my show. I do my A team, which is my 3 or 4 stars, and I do my report card. And that's I think something that I think all Canadiens fans could really do, because I hear from a lot of Canadiens fans who are just, they're at their wits' end about this team, and they're telling me that, I can't stand watching this anymore. And I said, well, if you watch it with a different lens, sometimes you might be able to enjoy it a little. And same with coach, like watch the Laval Rocket play, watch Boston College play, watch Ivan Demidov play. Like if you're frustrated by watching the Canadiens right now, change the way that you look at the team and look at it more from a work in progress, as opposed to I want them to win right now. And so that's kind of the approach I've taken to this team in the last couple of years. And like I said, I went to high school with Kent Hughes. So I kind of feel kind of invested a little bit that way about the rebuild. And I also went to law school with the Canadiens assistant GM, which is kind of a weird connection. But but yeah, no, I'm really interested in the rebuild and what that means. And so for me, I realize they're not going to win 5 out of 6 games. They're going to struggle and they're going to have problems. So I think that in order to enjoy it, you have to look at it in a different way.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's taking a deep dive into sort of each game and seeing how the progression of the team is going, and that's the aspect that I really enjoy as well. So thank you for sharing that with us, and I encourage people to head over after every Montreal game and have your opinions and say them out there as well. So it's the only way you get to learn more.
Yeah, come over and see us, guys, anytime. Unless you're going to watch Coach, then I don't want you to leave Coach's show to come see my show. But otherwise, if Coach isn't on, then you can come see me, and then
not a problem. We're going to go back there. I will visit your show and get there too. Thanks again to all your information you bring to us. I agree with you. Yeah, so many other games I'm watching. OHL, WHL, QM one at a time. David Dove last night. Laval Rocket, I saw this year to do a play-by-play. I think that's a good thing about that, to know more about the prospect on the Montreal Canadiens, the pipeline. And I think you have other things just watching the Montreal Canadiens if you are really big fans of the Montreal. So great point about that. We have Mr.
If you love hockey,
go ahead.
If you love hockey, it's a great time to be a Canadiens fan, because there's so much hockey to watch.
Exactly.
Right? Because we have these prospects all over the world.
Yeah, absolutely about that.
Devin, sorry, just one question, Coach. You mentioned, did you say you went to school with Kent Hughes?
So Kent Hughes went to Beaconsfield High School in the West Island. He was 3 years ahead of me in high school.
Okay.
I can't say that I knew him well, but I did. His brother Ryan, who actually also played he was drafted by the Quebec Nordiques. He was 1 year ahead of me, and I knew Ryan a little bit better than I knew Kent. And then John Sedgwick, who is the assistant GM of the Canadiens and the GM of the Laval Rocket, was a year behind me in law school.
Oh, interesting. Interesting. And is Kent
That's
Hughes
a
a
Husker.
cool cucumber as he appears nowadays? Or has he always been like that?
Yeah,
Or
yeah. I can't profess to say I knew him that well in high school.
yeah.
His brother was a really nice guy. His brother Ryan, if you look him up, was a spectacular hockey player. He played at Cornell. Was drafted he was the first pick of the second round of the draft by the Quebec Nordiques. He played on he played on that one year, the World Juniors, when they finished last. I can't remember what it was. It was in Czech
Oh
Republic
yeah.
somewhere. It was like
Yeah.
the worst World Junior team of all time, but he was a real up and comer, and unfortunately, his career was cut short by injury. Yeah, Kent was a nice guy from the times that I met him. But we were 15 years old. What do what kind of personality do you have when you're 15 years old? You're more worried about pimples and
And
all that
women.
other stuff. Yeah. Well, yeah.
Great. Thank you.
Awesome. Senator, we have 1 week of what?
1 week before turkey time. Are you ready? American turkey time. We got the awards coming up
The
on
Turkey
the
Award,
28th.
Senator, happening next Thursday. This is our annual. This is the fourth annual. We did not do it at the first year, but we send that. We create that Turkey Awards. Honestly, 2023-24. I did not show the date over there, but it's going happening next Thursday. This year we have a new Turkey Awards for the Montreal Canadiens players, and they already have the one for the team and of course the NHL players. So join us live next Thursday, guys. It's a great night. It's a fun night, and we invite everyone. Devin, if you want to join us live for that show, we are about 5, 6 people talking about the turkey. You vote during that show, and you give us a little bit what's going on since the beginning of the season. The Thanksgiving, honestly, this is the first date of the season where 75%, I believe 73%, the team out in the playoff make the playoffs. So it's a bit a kind of first date where you separate a little bit the team, and then we look about what happening. It's approximately 20, 22 games. So it's the first quarter of the season, and we're looking only for the player that does not perform well. Not the people on the player perform well. So we do a kind of a bracket, and we vote the 16 players and go for 8 to 4 and the 2, and then finally the last one. And the last
The
3
Grand
are
Turkey.
Jeff Petrie, Kokanemi, and Josh Anderson for the NHL. The team are Columbus Islanders and Ottawa Senator. So that's what they are, the winner of the Turkey Award. So next week, guys, Thursday, 8:30 p.m. So that's
We look
happening
forward
next.
to
Jeff
that, Coach.
Petrie is definitely a turkey.
Yep.
Yeah.
So during the time, Devin, I was in Florida, so it was a turkey night for me. So it was a better time to do it, and we can eat turkey. But until then, we only eat cheese. But that's a subject for another time. Here we go. NHL news: the Washington Capitals announced Ovechkin will be out for 4 to 6 weeks. Broken fibia.
Fibia, yeah.
Fibia, and
Yeah.
it's not easy to come back after that kind of injury. It was next, and I think, 14 goals in the beginning of the season. It was approximately 28
The
goals.
leading scorer. He
Yeah.
was the leading scorer in the NHL.
And
Yeah.
this is a blow for the Capital. They're still now hanging there 1-1 against Colorado Avalanche. They have a great system, but I think the fact Ovechkin is not there, it would be very difficult for them to consider the same pace of what they won so far. So, what do you think about that injury, Devin, for the Washington Capitals?
I mean, it's a shame, really. Such a random injury to happen. Like the hit. I mean, it didn't really look that bad to me. It wasn't your usual knee on knee situation. I was surprised to hear today that it was as serious as it is. I think you bring up a good point, Coach, when you say that it's a hard injury to come back from. I think it's especially hard to come back from when you're is he 40 now?
39.
I mean,
39, I think.
yeah. So I mean, you break your leg when you're 22. That's one thing. When you break your leg when you're 40 and have that much mileage on your body, it's tough. So I think it's unfortunate because the story that he was writing this year was pretty special. I don't think any of us after last year thought that he would have had any chance to break the record this year. But he certainly was on pace to do even more than that. And I know, I mean, there were people even talking that, with the pace that he was on this year, and if he could keep that up, he might even get to 1,000 goals. So this is just and again, it's a good lesson to learn when you talk about as hockey fans, we often like to predict and speculate. And, we always talk, for example, this guy's going to do this and this guy's going to do that. And it's a good reminder sometimes that, things don't always go as planned. And it's, it's too bad because and it's going to be tough for that team too, because that team was a good story as well this year and they're losing their leader.
Yeah, absolutely. It's unfortunate because it was starting to be the headliner of the NHL moving forward. And it was something that eventually Gretzky was going to start to appear at most of those games in anticipation of it happening. Maybe it wasn't going to happen this year. I don't know if he would have continued the torrid pace that he's currently on, but at least it would have set the path for next year. And, it more than likely would have happened by next year. So now it puts a little bit of wrinkle in the story, and we'll see if he does it. To his credit, I mean, he's one heck of a stud, and he's in great shape. So if anybody, even at that age, can come back, it's Ovechkin.
Awesome. Roger, welcome back. Roger Delaney and Bob Smith. I appreciate a lot, everybody. Don't forget, please click on the likes. Where other news for the injuries? Edmonton announced Zach Hyman is going to be out for 4 to 7 days. That's another forward. They also put on ER Victor Advetson. I screw up his name, but I apologize. So 1S is going to be missing at least a couple of weeks for Advetson. Tampa announced today they play without Nick Paul. So there are the 3 injury happening in the NHL. Of course, they have other things, but I think this is what got from the NHL. So Edmonton, without Evander Kane, they consider having more injuries game after game. So this is a very interesting team. And of course,
and the big one
tonight.
The big one tonight, Coach.
Yes.
Kucherov apparently looked like he was having some difficulty with his shoulder. Hopefully, it's nothing too serious. Tampa Bay can ill afford to have him out of the lineup.
And Vegas announced Alex Pietrangelo is out tonight, and they play without Mac Stone. And they have 2 other White Cloud. Now, is it White Cloud or
Yeah.
Nikolai Ag also is out. Oh no, it's Ag and Sutton for the Vegas. So Vegas missing a couple of days. Listen, guys, it's not easy to play with a full roster. I always said you need approximately 30 players during the year to play in NHL now. So we'll see happening. Let's move on, guys, for the next thing. The news for the Montreal Canadiens, honestly, is RHP. First of all, he played with the Laval Rocket. We're not going to talk about him. We're going to talk about Laval after that. So he played last night. And then, of course, Laine is back on the lineup. Used today a dark blue jersey for no contacts. Skate with the team now. Practice. The question of the days before returning with the Montreal Canadiens. That's the reason the subject tonight is going to be about the line for the Montreal Canadiens a little bit later. And then, of course, you have a big news. Juraj Slavkovsky was used. Someone said Juraj Slavkovsky at the center to take a face-off with Mac Bureau back on the practice today with the Montreal Canadiens. They have Newhook, Doc, Suzuki, Evans, Dvorak, and Slavkovsky. And they was practice the face-off. And right away, don't take too much time. And now they put Juraj Slavkovsky as a center for the Montreal Canadiens, but that's happening today for around the Montreal Canadiens practice. Now we know Montreal is out until Saturday night. The next game will be Saturday night. Again, the Vegas go tonight. Vegas play tonight again Ottawa, lead 2-0, and they have 3 games and 4 nights. So hopefully we can put them a little bit at Paris when they come back for Ottawa tonight. and they have a good time for the next 24 hours, and then they'll be ready again in Montreal Canadiens. But will be interesting. So, what do you think about the soccer ski, Devin?
I mean, this is the kind. I mean, this is what I love about Montreal Canadiens fans. You know, they see this video of Slavkovsky taking a face off, and they, you know, all of a sudden it turns into, oh my God, they're going to make. You know, the reality to me is that, you know, you've got an expert like Mark Bureau who's showing up to help the team with face-offs. Why wouldn't you get some advice? Why wouldn't you work your way in there? Slavkov. I mean, it doesn't matter whether you're a centerman or not. It's, you know, it's a great skill to have, and if you can learn a little bit about taking face-offs, then why wouldn't you learn it? You know, I mean, I don't think there's any real plan to make him a centerman. But again, like, you know, if somebody gets thrown out of the face-off circle and Slavkovsky has to take a face-off every once in a while, then you know, obviously it's nice that he would, you know, gain from some of the knowledge that Mark Bureau might have for him. So I love this, that, you know, there's, you know, you can go on YouTube and there's like 10 different YouTube channels that are talking about and this is like, you know, I think Coach said it kind of sarcastically, everyone's losing their mind over this thing, and it's this, you know, it's really not a big deal. You know, again, like, I just think it's a guy who took the opportunity to, and to me, it's a very positive thing that he wants to learn this stuff, right? I mean, that's one of the things that we learned about Slavkovsky. He's always in pursuit of getting better. And, you know, this is a skill that he probably doesn't have a lot of. And, you know, for him to, you know, to want to get in there and do that extra work, I think is definitely something that we as Canadiens fans can definitely be happy about, that he's that kind of guy, that he wants to work hard and learn at every opportunity.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more, Devin. I mean, ideally, if you could have 12 players, 12 forwards that could take faceoffs and win a good majority of them, like, you can't go wrong. I've always been of the mind that, you know, if you can stack your first and second line with two centermen on there, it's always ideal, exactly for that reason, because I don't know what the percentage is, but players do get kicked out of that center circle quite often. And it's good to be able to put somebody in there that's reliable. And as we know, a lot of it is about possession, and it starts with the faceoff. So even if he's not used as a centerman per se, to be able to win the faceoff, gain possession, and get the offense going, whether it's on the power play or on 5-on-5, I think it's critical.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I mean, I'm not going to say I'm surprised, but you know, I wouldn't have been surprised if more of the guys weren't taking faceoffs. Like, I wouldn't, you know, like, yeah. what, you know, why wasn't, you know, Cole Caulfield taking faceoffs? Well, I mean, again, it's not a criticism of Caulfield by any means, but again, like, you know, like, if you're a forward on that team, you know, I would certainly at least be listening to what Mark Bureau was teaching those other guys. You know, so again, I don't think it's a big deal.
Yeah, I agree.
You know, that reminds me a little bit like, I don't say it would be like this, but, you know, Buddy Tkachuk started as a left winger, and then he become more as a center. So I think if you have more tools under your belt, that's better. If you have many times you get the center removed at the face-off, now it's a little bit more difficult to have, you know, 100% night. They remove center all the time. So to have an extra player, winger, can be a good face-off man. As I think this is a great asset. And I think at the end of the day, the Montreal just opened up a little bit. I think the fans jumping right away. They dive right away in the lake. But I think it's see what would be without Kirby Dak as a center number 2 example. And they have other possibilities. Now we know, I'm not going to ask you that question yet. It will be at the clash. But maybe another player could become a center with the Montreal Canadiens.
Coach, I don't believe it. This is sort of where we're making the leap without really knowing. I don't think the purpose of it is to necessarily change him to a centerman. It's just to harness taking faceoffs and, again, gaining possession of the puck when those opportunities present themselves. Last thing you want to be thrown into a faceoff situation and you never practiced it. It's almost a guaranteed loss.
Well, I think you want all of your players to have all of the skills. I see Marco asking in the comments, asking about what is it about Slafkovsky that makes you think he can't be a center. Well, there's nothing. There's nothing that makes me think he can't be a center. But what they have lots of centers, and I don't think that they're going to permanently make him a center. I'm not going to put anything past a player like Juraj Slafkovsky with what he's done in his life already at the age of 21 years old. Like I think he can pretty much do anything he wants to do on the ice. But again, I think it's more of a situation where you want your players to have those skills if they have to, right? Like not just face-offs. Like even like you want your wingers to know how to defend as centermen if for whatever reason they have to play that role at some point. If somebody gets injured, or we've seen it already this year where a defenseman gets injured and Arbor Jackeye gets thrown out of the game, and now you're okay, somebody's going to have to play defense. Well, one of the forwards is going to move back. So these, the more versatile you can be as a hockey player, and the more versatile players you can have on your team, the better off you are. And for Slafkovsky, to me, it's a kid who loves to learn and loves to know more about hockey. And, he's at practice, and then he looks over and sees that the centers are taking faceoffs with a guy who's known to be one of the, a premier faceoff man in the NHL. And he says, well, I can learn something from that guy. I'm going to go over there and be a part of it. And like you said, like if he ever has to take a faceoff now, he's certainly not going to be any worse at it because he spent, 10 minutes with Mark Bureau.
Yeah, exactly.
Well said about everybody. We're going to talk about a little bit later because we're going to talk about the line the next couple minutes, so we're going to go there. Montreal did not play Sunday Monday, so we're going to move on with the Laval Rocket. Laval Rocket lost yesterday 2-1 in overtime, 12-2-1. Really great game overall. I think the momentum of the game changed when they have about 11-minute review call in American Hockey League. I cannot recall it. The last time we see over 10 minutes in hockey review call. The funny thing was the iPad at the play box, it was not working. It looked like. But everybody else, it was working. The bench, the players, the bench have one. I don't know why the referee said, wait a minute. Why not we take the one from the one for other team and then use the iPad? And why he wait 9 minutes before he called upstairs? So it was really risky. And at the end of the day, what was difficult for me, they never gave us a great explanation of what happening. And that was maybe the biggest problem for me behind that. It completely changed the momentum. Now, I want to, you guys listening, one specific players guy talking about happening last night, the goaltender Jacob Tobesh.
Communication, ils ont vu la séquence, tout était correct, mais les zébrés, eux autres, sont au ben là, ça marche pas au chronométreur, fait que on va prendre une décision originale, puis il n'y a pas de but.
Incroyable.
Hier, là, c'était pas fort. Puis Dobesh, lui, n'est pas passé par midi à 14h pour bien l'expliquer. Disons que j'espère que le Canadien ne tapera pas trop ses doigts parce que c'est le fun, pas à peu près d'avoir un gars qui n'a pas la langue dans sa poche.
The first goal, I don't know. I can't even understand how is that not a goal. I'm blown. Like he's right behind the net and he's relying on the iPad and blaming the iPad. This is a problem I feel like with society. Like we are relying on the technology. He's right there. And in OT, he doesn't give us a penalty. I will be fine with our performance. We'll fix it, but I wouldn't sleep well with that guy if he's getting another game.
Wow, en gros, il dit c'est un reflet de la société même d'aujourd'hui.
Tobesh, if you listen to him, the guy can talk. The guy can tell what he's thinking. His mind is very different. That's the reason maybe a goalie is like he's on his own bubble, guys. Really entertaining guys after press conference, but he was not shy yesterday to explain the reason what he think about that. He think it's a society problem with the technology, everything like that. Way he could talk like all night long with the reporter yesterday. But great performance, guys, at Tobesh yesterday. That's the reason the Laval Rocket get 1 point. Remember, I think it was an exhibition game. The Montreal win by the score 2-1 in Artap. I can't recall it was the team Ottawa maybe, and
I think so.
And he delivered a great game. And he did exactly the same thing yesterday. He was the first start of the game, stopped 37 of the 39 shot he faced. Great performance again at Torbes. That was maybe his best game of the year. We know he struggled at some point during the year, but I'm sure he would like to stop the last. And then at the end, again, I don't know, Devin, you follow the game, but by the way, the Devils take the lead 3-2 right now against the Carolina Hurricanes. Canada take the lead 2-1 against the Washington Capitals. And Edmonton take a lead 1-0. No, 1-1 now with Minnesota. Anyway, my point behind that is like, I don't know why they have no penalty when Mayu lost the puck yesterday. I know Patrik Laine was upset about it was a soft play. I can understand Mayu have to be smarter on that one. But are you agree disagree about that no call from that referee at the blue line? Maybe at the chat, Marco watched the game, and maybe Bob and many of you anyway. Do you think it was a penalty or not, Devin?
I mean, it definitely was a penalty, and I mean, if it had happened in the first 2 minutes of the game, they would have called it all day long, right? I mean, we've grown accustomed now in the NHL to these so-called automatic penalties. You know, like if a guy steps on your stick and falls down, the NHL is telling us now that that's a penalty, regardless of you. You don't even have to be looking; you can be looking away, and a guy steps on your stick and falls down. It's tripping, right? You know, if your stick we always hear if a stick is horizontal across your opponent's chest, it's automatically hooking, right? So, I struggle with what's going on with the refereeing in the NHL in general, and I think, the idea now that referees think that they're managing the game by making calls based on the circumstances of the game as opposed to the rule book is really frustrating to me. I mean, I understand it to an extent. I mean, I understand the desire not to call a penalty that may or may not decide the game. And honestly, if you call a penalty in overtime, you are giving a significant advantage to one team. But on the other hand, you gave a Rochester a pretty significant advantage by not calling that penalty, right? Because, as a result, Mayu coughs up the puck and, they go the other way and they score the winning goal. So again, I'm at a loss a little bit. And if, some people who've listened to me over the, the last little while, whether it's on YouTube or on TikTok, have heard me, I don't understand refereeing and officiating in the NHL. It's a mystery to me. I feel like the referees they overstep their bounds quite a bit as far as, refereeing the game the way they want to see it go, as opposed to the way the rules say it should go. They just seem to be making it up as they go along. And it's not the individual referee. I think it's the league. The league doesn't provide these guys with the training they need. So anyways, I've gone on a rant about that, but yes, I mean, it clearly was a penalty. It would have been a penalty at any other time in the game. And like I said, I get the desire not to call a penalty in overtime because it does provide such an advantage. But again, there's a perfect example. If you don't call the penalty, then you've provided the other team, not only an advantage by not giving Montreal a power play, but now all of a sudden, you're 3-on-3 and one of your players is laying on his back and the other team's going the other way on a breakaway. And it definitely affected the game. And again, I was on the live with you as well, Coach, at that point last night. And I do remember, is it P. LaWhite, or I don't know how to say his name properly, but, he was talking about how Mayu was soft and that, he's no good and Engstrom's way better. And, I can see that interpretation of that play, but honestly, there's not much. I mean, I don't know that Mayu made the best decision there going into traffic the way that he did. And he certainly could have avoided that perhaps. But I mean, again, I don't think it was a soft play, and I don't think it's reflective of him not being a good defenseman. Obviously, that's, the weakness in his game, that he needs to work on his decision-making, and that's why he's in Laval. But again, I think, it was just an unfortunate situation. And I think the refs definitely, in addition to the 11-minute review that they botched, I think they botched that call as well.
And after I want to add about something about Mayu, the last play.
Yeah, I mean, with regards to refereeing, I agree with you, Devin. I think that I've struggled with that all year long myself. What it is I just don't see the consistency in the calls from game to game, and that's an issue. I know I know that they have regular meetings with the referees and they discuss situations that may have come up during the course of the week. So that's a positive. But then when it doesn't translate to the actual games, then that's worrisome because it's, as you said, it's one thing if the game is 5-0 and a goal is scored either way, versus it's in overtime and something like this happens. With regards to Mayu, yeah, I mean he's still working on his game. He's a young player, as you said. That there's a reason why he's back in Laval right now. But I mean, there's promising aspects to his game that we have seen. He's one of the top defensemen in the AHL, as we know, and he has to make better decisions. I think that's the big key right there. And once he gets accustomed to that, we're going to see an invaluable piece being added to the Montreal Canadiens. So that's the only thing I really want to bring up about Mayu. He'll learn from this lesson, I'm sure, and you move forward. That's where you learn.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, all these guys are learning right now, right? Like all these guys are learning, and if they learn, they'll get the I mean, Arbor Jackeye is the perfect example, right? Everyone was, it was funny. There were, people who hated Arbor Jackeye earlier in the season because they didn't think he was playing very well, and then there were other ones who hated Marty St. Louis because he was, he was, being too tough on Arbor Jackeye. But the reality is that Arbor Jackeye was being taught a lesson. He was being made a better hockey player, and to his credit, he took those lessons on, and now he looks better, right?
Agreed.
And that's what they're doing with all these young players.
You're absolutely right about this, guys. You're absolutely right. You nailed it, Devin, about Mayu. Look, I believe I am going to talk about this. Who's going to call up everything from Montreal, and I think for me, is really Mayu need to clean up a couple of things in his game. It's not on the offensive side. Everything before the red line, and it comes with the decision making. He will pinch at the wrong time. He will get a cap control at the wrong time. He will make a inconsistency pass like from his tape to tape on the breakout example. He will lose battle in the corner because he's not getting there with urgency. So put this all together. We talk about, so coach, come on, you're hard on him. But if you want to play, not to play in NHL, Devin and Arta, but stay in the NHL. This is the difference between play and stay in NHL. That's the reason he come back in Laval. So if he can improve those areas of the game, may you have everything to become a good defenseman in NHL. And I think it's the same thing with Joshua Roy. It's the same thing with many players try to go in NHL. So I think for me, Mayu, when he's going to develop that, and no doubt in my mind, if I'm Montreal Canadiens with no injuries, I keep Mayu in Laval the full year. Let him play 20 minutes. Let him to go in the trenches. Let him to learn over and over. And when he can call up, when he'll be ready, he's never going to returning in American Hockey League. That will be for me the best thing for Mayu, and that will take time to him to get there. But I think that's what Mayu need to improve. Now, Florence Jacquet yesterday played his best game of the year. Florence Jacquet have a good start with Luke Talk and Vincent Arsenault. The four-line was excellent. After that, you have the injuries of Arsenault. And then after that, you have the injury of Alex Barry-Boulet. The four-line modified. And Jacquet struggled in the last 3-4 games before that. Nothing against him. It's a learning process for Jacquet, his first year, everything like that. But yesterday, guys, Jacquet was the best forward for the Laval Rocket. And that we have to give him credit about that. Again, it's another player guy who take 2 years before him had possible to play in NHL. He need to learning like everybody else, but a great performance yesterday for Jacquet. And the Laval Rocket returning tomorrow night, Friday night, again at Belleville Senator. Is a back-to-back game. It's one at home, one on the road for the Laval Rocket, so it'll be interesting what happening. They play without Dauphin and Luke Tuck yesterday, both of them injury. And look, I thought at some point Sean Farrell is going to be a good hockey player, but Farrell this year cannot buy anything. He cannot. He cannot. Everything he does, the guy is against him. Yesterday he hit the post. Yesterday the review of the of the goal against him, and then he got robbed by Devin Levy. We don't talk about this. Yesterday, guys, was the battle of the royal battle between two great goaltenders yesterday, Devin Levy and Tobash. So, if you want to add 1 minute, Devin, about the game yesterday, again, we can move on.
Yeah, it was a fun game to watch. It was kind of interesting because I actually was watching your live and watching the game on TV at the same time. So I was kind of in the comments, watching you, listening to you, watching the game. So it was kind of not the best recipe for really focusing closely on the game, but it was definitely, I mean, Dobesh was spectacular. Levy, he was spectacular. I love watching the Laval Rocket games. I think, like I said earlier, you know, if you're frustrated by watching the Canadiens night in and night out, then you know there's all kinds of opportunities to watch other Montreal Canadiens hockey, and that game was fun to watch. I mean, other than the ending, but it was an exciting game. I liked it.
Awesome. About that, and after I'm going to move the next one. At prospect, Evan Demidov, guy, will be very quick about Evan Demidov. Like I mentioned earlier in the show, Dimitrov played yesterday with the SK. SK beat the Torpedo. I believe the final score 4-1, an empty net at some point. 3-0 after the first period. Dimitrov was going to have a great game. It was Rondenberg rolled his 4 line during the first period, and he's approximately 5 minutes during the first period. And then at the beginning of the second period, 3-0, guys. The 4 line is on the ice at 17 minutes. And they got scored again. Listen, Dimitrov is batch checking. He's the last person batch checking. Dimitrov had nothing to do with the goal against. But during that shift, he played 23 seconds. After that, Rothenberg got scared, like he does all the time, and he decided to bench Dimitrov as the 13th forward and use Guzman as the fourth on the 4 line as a winger over Dimitrov. Now, that line played 3 shifts after that for the period, and he used Dimitrov 1 shift at a 3 minute remaining on the second period when the score was 3-1. That was 1 minute and 35 seconds for Dimitrov during the second period. At the 4th period, guys, he started Dimitrov on the first shift of the 4 line, and then that's all for Dimitrov for the rest of the game. We never see again Dimitrov. I think he played 15 seconds or 32 seconds, something like that, on the 3rd period for a total, guys, 6 minutes and 46 seconds for Dimitrov yesterday with the team SKA. And it's painful to watch Dimitrov because I'm watching all the game and I just want to see him. But Rothenberg, guys, is like...
He's out of his league.
Bad. Like, panic mode.
Yeah.
The first period, it will play. Now he watch the score. A lead by 2 goals is nervous. A lead by 3 goals is still nervous, guys. At 2 goals, he's getting more nervous, and at 1 goal lead, that's the panic total for him. So he cut the bench all the time at 3 lines. His 3 line guy is pretty good. You have a good line now with Kuznetsov and Plenikov, but again, still, he panicked so hard, he benched his 4 line, and then yesterday, guy, he had no reason to put Dimitrov as the 13th forward against Guzman. No, but again, this is what Rothenberg is. So, for me, my biggest concern, Devin, is about the development of Dimitrov. Now, he faced to the mindset and mentally it's hard for him to performing, and they don't want to send him nowhere. I don't buy it. Me now, the people say, because he refused another extension. It's not this anymore. It's really Rothenberg want to win, and he feel like it's easy to jump in on the kid at 18 years old versus other players. So I don't know if you want to add something about Dimitrov and then we're gonna move on with in after.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you. I mean, I kind of, the conspiracy theorist in me thinks that, this is Rottenberg either punishing Demidov for not re-signing with SKA, or maybe it's Rottenberg putting pressure on the Montreal Canadiens to, pay some money so that, they'll try and get him out of his contract and bring him to Montreal early. But again, I don't know that he's smart enough to pull that off. And I'm starting to sort of get, more in line with where you are, Coach, and that it's just more, I mean, obviously, I mean, we know he doesn't know what he's doing back there. That's not a surprise. I mean, he's got zero hockey experience. He doesn't, the only reason he's there is because of his father and his father's connections. So, I mean, we know that he's not a good hockey coach. The hope that you would have is that he would surround himself with people that would say to him, "What are you doing?" But again, it's Russia, and I suspect that Rottenberg is not the kind of guy that you tell what to do very much. So it's frustrating. I agree with you, Coach. The biggest concern at this point is that it's affecting Demidov's development. I don't think that it'll hurt his development in the long run, but it may mean, that when he comes next year, that instead of being a guy who's just finished an entire season of playing pro hockey where he's a regular contributor playing 14, 15, 16 minutes a game, he's a guy who maybe needs a little bit of seasoning before. I mean, I know Montreal Canadiens fans think that he's going to step in on day one and be the starting winger on line two, and that he's just going to step into the NHL seamlessly and be a superstar. That might not be the case, and it might even be less of the case now that he's not getting the ice time that he needs to. Again, like if he was getting that ice time, I think we'd feel more comfortable about that. If he was, if he was playing 15, 16 minutes a game and he was getting, he was on a point per game pace and, he was, going after Michkov's record and all that stuff, I think we'd be more comfortable with that. Again, I think that it just means that it'll be a little bit longer before he becomes a good hockey player, as opposed to, I don't think it's a case where now he's not going to ever be a good hockey player because, for, 1 year, he got stuck on the bench. I don't think it's going to ruin him, but it might just, push things back a little bit when he does come over to North America.
Breaking news. Breaking news.
Soon after, your Islanders.
What's the breaking news?
Your Islanders.
They're going to go to overtime?
They were winning 1-0. They gave a goal at 15 minutes, and now they gave a goal at 19 minutes. They're losing 2-1.
They'll tie it up and go to overtime. Don't worry.
It's been that way for Islanders, guys. They cannot put a puck in the net, goodness. And they cannot keep the lead by what? The Devils guys beat the Carolina Hurricanes tonight 4-2. And we have a goal differential of 1 goal between Boston and Utah, 1-0 right now for the Boston. Joe Sacco used the old Bruins bad team to play a defensive game tonight. And then the Golden Knights, guys, now is 3-2 against Ottawa. So that's happening, guys, left and right.
6-6.
Colorado Avalanche take the lead 2-1 against Washington with 8 minutes to go. So give you everything. And then the game get between Tampa Bay and the Blue Jackets, guys, 6-6 at this moment. Monahan with 3 points tonight against Johnson. Have 2 goals for Columbus Blue Jackets. Devin, I dream about Gen Johnson all summer to the Montreal get that players, but they're not happening, unfortunately, for the Columbus Blue Jackets. Son of Tap, I'm going to start with you tonight about this. The TSN annual NHL team ranking U14 players. Montreal Canadiens are number 1 at that one. So I would like to hear from you. This is a bit what the core 4 they have. The Montreal Canadiens, they consider a Cole Caulfield a AA great, Evan Demidov a AA, followed by Juraj Slavkovsky A, Lane Hudson A. I agree or disagree. It's your turn now to tell us what you think about that.
Well, the key thing is they looked at a varying number of different criteria in order to come up with that. I know it's group with Craig Button in it and a few others from TSN that spend a lot of time looking at that.
Sorry about that.
that look at these prospects and try to see them in terms of how their development is going. And the amazing thing is they look well. There's the list right there of the 10, which was one of the higher numbers in terms of a team having players that were in that category. And there were, like I said, there are a lot of criteria that go into it in terms of establishing whether they're a double A. I mean, the AAA are your franchise guys. I think they gave one AAA to Celebrini when they were going through it for other teams. There weren't too many of those, but the double A's, of course, are there for Caulfield and Demidov, and it's looking good for Montreal. Other teams are at 2 and 3 and 4 maybe. I know San Jose was up there as well. The surprise to me was Anaheim, that they were as low as they were. I think they ranked them 8th, coach, if I recall correctly. I would have put them a little bit higher than that, but the reasoning for that was that, yes, they do have some high level grade prospects, but the volume is not there as it is in Montreal's case. And we all know it's not about the 2 or 3 players that you have. It's about the players that come into your lineup eventually and have a specific role and will fulfill it to the degree that you feel will bring the team forward. So it was great news to see Montreal at number 1. It's promising. Of course, take it with a grain of salt because, anything can happen when they're making the jump from junior to NHL or from AHL to NHL. So, hopefully their progress will continue as it is, and that only bodes well for the pipeline in Montreal.
Good point about that, Devin. I know, and after talk about this, I'm going to send a question for you, if you don't mind. If you look about that list, right, we don't have a lot of superstar. We don't have like when I talk about superstars, the guy can score 100 points, and Dimitrov, we don't know he's going to be like that. What do you feel about that for the Montreal in the future? What the strategy for now for Ken use to make maybe some kind of modification to have a better concept of the team unit that more like a balance versus one specific player can score 50 goals regularly or if they get 100 points?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a good point when we talk about the depth of the Canadiens group, under 24 group, because I think at this point the reality is nobody knows what any of these players are going to be in a year or two from now. Obviously, the closer they get to the NHL, the better idea we have of what they're going to be. But Kent Hughes talks all the time about like collecting assets, right? Gathering assets, and we're in the gathering asset stage of the rebuild. And to me, it comes down to math. If you've got 12 prospects and you can expect half of them to succeed, it's better than if you have 8 prospects and you expect half of them to succeed. The more prospects you have, the more opportunities you have for them to succeed. So when we say that we're not sure whether there's a superstar in that group or not, and whether Demidov can actually become the superstar, but who knows? Maybe Sam Harris is the superstar. Right? Maybe Michael Hage is the superstar. Maybe Bogdan Konyushkov is the superstar. Entertap, you made a good point when you said I take these lists with a grain of salt. You have to. NHL teams have scouting staffs of 10, 15, 20 people, and they scout for one team. Do we think that Craig Button and a couple of staffers at TSN can do that same job for the entire NHL? Do we think that, Corey Pronman at The Athletic can maintain a database of every prospect for every team, in the NHL and outside of the NHL, and do it in any real accurate way? So I mean, obviously it feels great as a Canadiens fan, and we all feel confident and comfortable that we have, that Kent Hughes and Jeff Gorton have gathered a good group of prospects. But Michael Hage could be the next superstar in the NHL, or he could be an electrician in 5 years from now. Like we honestly don't know. And so for me, when I look at lists like that, to me, it's about the depth, and it's about the numbers that they have, the number of guys. So what we're looking at this list now of 10 guys that coaches just put up. If 6 of those 10 guys become serviceable NHLers, then I think or 6 of those 10 guys become the player that we think they can become, then I think the Canadiens are doing fine, right? If Cole Caulfield can be the player that we think he's going to become, or Demi Dobb becomes the, maybe Michael Hage doesn't make it, maybe Joshua Roy doesn't make it, maybe Logan Mailloux, it's just too much for him. He can't get past, but if the other 7 guys all become, if Slavkovsky continues his development, if Lane Hudson becomes who he's supposed to be, then I think we're fine. So, do you need a superstar? Do you need 100-point guy? Maybe. But again, like, to me, it's all speculation. We just, we don't know. And the fact that they have such a deep group, I think is the really important thing, as opposed to having that one guy who you think is going to be, the next coming of whoever.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the volume. I think it's the volume, the accumulation that they have, because at this point, I think you alluded to it, Devin. You said, are all 10 of them are going to be on Montreal's team in the future? They might be NHLers, who knows, if everything goes well, but they won't necessarily be with Montreal. So part of the accumulation of those assets is now how to manage them. So you might have to package 2 or 3 of them to fill a big gap that you have on your team in the future, whether it's at center or a right-handed defenseman, whatever the case might be, a goalie. And that's where I think the benefit comes in, because if you only have 4 or 5 players to deal with, you're probably going to be utilizing them on your own team, and you're not going to move forward if you don't have those assets to work with.
Like, look how shallow some of the like, look at a team like Pittsburgh, or even a team like Ottawa. Boston. Like, yes, they've had some success in the last couple of years. Even Toronto, like, they're, obviously they've got a couple of high-end prospects that are right on the edge of coming to the NHL. But then below that, there's a lot of teams that just don't have the prospect pool and that's just the top 10. Like, you could probably go 20 deep with prospects for Montreal that have a relatively good chance of making the NHL at some point. Like that list didn't have, Owen Beck. It didn't have Luke Tuck. It didn't have Florian Jacki. It didn't have and those, these are guys who, aren't maybe going to be 100-point guys, but if Owen Beck becomes the 4th line center for the Montreal Canadiens for the next 12 years and is one of the better, two-way centermen, bottom 6 centermen in the NHL, then that's a success story. Not every guy has to be, Sidney Crosby or Connor Bedard. Like, if Owen Beck becomes a guy who, gets 40, 45 points a year and is, a Philip Deneau type, or, a guy who can play both ways, then I'm happy with that. I'm really happy with that.
Yeah, it's about filling in the roles, right, that are necessary as a team to go far in the playoffs.
Right, and for me, like, I one of my pet peeves, and one of the things I get frustrated with is this idea that, your best players are on your first line, your next best players are on your second line, your next best players are on your third line, and your worst players are on your fourth line. Yeah. I don't love that. Like, to me, the guys on your fourth line are on your fourth line because they're really good at what fourth liners do, right? Your guy on your fourth line isn't the guy who you throw there because, he hasn't played really well for the last, month or so. Yeah. It's not Kirby Dach because he hasn't played well for a few games. We're going to make him go down to the fourth line, and then we're going to move Brendan Gallagher up to the second line. Well, Brendan Gallagher is not a second liner right now, and Kirby Dach isn't a fourth liner. Regardless of whether you want to, like, they don't have the skill sets to play in those roles.
Right.
And so, yeah, I mean, again, it's you're right. It's filling those roles. Like, is Joshua Roy going to be a first line player in the NHL? Probably not, but he'd be a pretty special. He has the potential to be a pretty special third liner in the league. And if you've got a guy like Joshua Roy playing up to his capabilities, and he's your third line winger, you've got a pretty good team. Yeah, really good. And if you can pay them properly, that's another thing. That's another aspect of
That's a
the
good
of
point.
the
Yeah.
rebuild. If Joshua Roy is going to be your third line center, you can't pay him $8 million a year.
Right.
Same with Owen Beck. If he's going to be your fourth line center, you can't pay him $4 or $5 million a year. Owen Beck, if he's going to be your fourth line center, you've got to find a way to get him in a way that you can afford him.
If you look about the great, I will just finish it before we move on, guys. With that kind of great is looking good, but I think some players need to step up more. So at the end of the day, if they can develop into increasing their A to the double A, and maybe the double A to triple A for the mid-up, or maybe a B like Edge could become an A, and maybe Coley, a Fowler become a double A. That will help the Montreal Canadiens to become a better team, because with that, they're great right now. That's not good enough, Montreal, I believe, to be really compete for a good playoff run.
But
We need more.
But the grade is very deceptive. It's very deceptive because it's based on the criteria and opinions that.
No, my point behind that is, Marco, in our tab is like they need to develop better. Does it make sense? Like I want the players to get the next level more. That will helping. Maybe I'm not talking about all of them, but a better defenseman. Hudson become a better defenseman. Cooley, Hudson become better where expectation. Fowler become a good contender in NHL example. The same thing with the second line and the third line. So that was my point behind that. And that was coming from N26, by the way. So it was great comment for N26 for that. I'm going to skip there, I think. So right now, I'm going to go back because we want to talk about this, guys. What are the new line? Who is held to his crash? We expect, guys, the return of Patrik Laine was the subject of the night, and then RHP. Now, Montreal have an extra players to put on the roster, so it would be like RHP become 23, and now if Patrik joined the team, now we have an extra player. They have to send one in Laval to do something about that. My question tonight is about what would be the look like the line, and maybe who is going to be a healthy scratch. So, and after that, Devin sent us the line for what he believes. So, what I'm going to do with you, and after that, to tell us if you agree with him, and then you, Devin, you're going to give us the reason why you put that line over there. So let's see here. I apologize. I deleted that one at the beginning, so I have to figure out this. Here we go. So what happening, guys? He used Caulfield, Sakeski, Koff, and Suzuki. Doc, Laine, and Uhook. We have Eneman with Dvorak and RHP. Gallagher, Evans, and Anderson. Is it like 1, 2, 3, 4, Devin, or is it like 1, 2, 4, 3?
No, so it's 1, 2, 3, 4, and I get that people are going to be like, well, why do you have, Anderson, Gallagher, and Evans on the fourth line? And I guess, to me, they're just the prototypical fourth line. I get that they're playing better hockey than the guys who are on the third line. I get that. And just because you're on the fourth line, to me, doesn't mean it necessarily means that you have to get less ice time. And you could easily switch those two lines around. But yeah, to me, that's just the grouping of the guys that I think should be together. To me, Jake Evans is just like, I love Jake Evans. I think he's an awesome, if he's the fourth line center or if he's the fourth line winger next to Owen Beck for the next 10 years for the Canadiens, I'll be very happy. So it's not really a situation where, I get that Evans is on the second line now, and I get that you would probably, based on merit, production wise, and I mean, just in general, you would have that fourth line ahead of the third line. So again, I don't read too much into it. It sort of goes back to what I was just talking about with Enertap about how, I believe that guys play, on certain lines because of the type of skill set they bring to the game, as opposed to, whether you think they're better than the guys on the line ahead of them or not.
So Devin, would you have, I guess, as your 13th and 14th, would you have Peseta and Armia? Because I don't see Armia on the list here.
Yeah, and so on this is the handwritten list that I based that list on. I have RHP and Armia sort of RHP slash Armia interchangeable. I think you put RHP there just because you want to see what he has. I don't hate Armia. I think he and Dvorak are obviously the ones who are probably going to go if the Canadiens had any type of reasonable offer, trades for either one of them. I think they'd be gone in a heartbeat. But yeah, that's what I would do. And if RHP kind of struggles out of the gate, he looked pretty good last night, all things considered, in Laval. Then I think you put. It kind of becomes a number. Who else are you going to take out realistically, right? You're not going to take Gallagher out right now. You're probably not going to take. Heineman would be the easy one to take out, but you can't. He's just playing too well. What I will say, and this will be maybe my controversial comment of the night, and everyone will jump all over me. I think the Canadiens should consider seeing if they can find a trade for Emil Heineman. And the reason I say that is because I think that as we go forward, it's going to be tough for him to find a spot in this lineup as Demidov comes into the lineup, as Joshua Roy works his way back into the lineup, as guys keep coming. Heineman isn't ideally suited in my mind for a bottom six role. And I don't think there's room for him in the top six. And frankly, his trade value right now is probably as high as it ever will be. So again, that's probably going to get people worked up a little bit. And it's not that I don't like him. I think the reason why I would say he should be traded is because he's played so well. And if you do manage to make a trade for him and get a decent return, then you can slide Armia back into the mix. Obviously that would be a downgrade, but you could also bring Joshua Roy back up from Laval if you wanted. But again, I think that I don't see Heineman being part of this team 2, 3, 4 years down the road. And if that's the case, then maybe you consider seeing if there's a market for him now.
Let
the fighting begin.
Yeah, no, it's very interesting, and I'll divulge mine as well. And it's not without controversy as well. So, obviously, you took some time there to sort of project those. I think the one thing we have to keep in mind is, this is very temporary. It's because Laine is coming back and RHP is coming back. And I say that because come trade deadline time, I do expect the Canadiens to be a little bit more, not overly active, but they're going to probably pull off a couple of trades, and we might see one or two of the current roster players, and I'm thinking guys like Dvorak or possibly even Anderson be traded, and that creates a spot for some of the younger players or for some of these guys that are lingering as 13th or 14th forwards. What I have, the first line, I have exactly the same, Devin. I had Caulfield, Suzuki, and Slafkovsky. I thought, last year they had very good chemistry, especially the second half of the year. And like this year, they've been moved around, both Caulfield and Slafkovsky. And sometimes when you put them in a blender and you kind of do that, it takes them out of their rhythm because, they have to get used to each other and where they're going to be at certain spots. So I like the consistency of keeping that top line intact. My third line, I'm going to jump to that one first. I liked seeing the chemistry between Anderson, Galley, and Evans, which is your fourth line right now there. They had 12 or 13 goals in 19 games when they were playing together. I thought that they really complemented each other. So that I would like to see. And now I get into the controversial part because what I have is I have Laine and I have Doc on the wing, but could also be used as the centerman because I think it's a big evaluation year for Doc. You have to see if he will fulfill that center role. And then I've been saying this for a while, and he hasn't played well, but I think this could motivate him at least till the trade deadline time because I think he'll be gone. I would put the Dvorak in between both Doc and Laine. And now you've got two centermen for the purposes of, face-offs and possession, and guys that are committed to producing and playing well off of each other. And I think Dvorak can be a very good playmaker when he puts his mind to it. And that's why I controversially put him there. And then my fourth line, I have Newhook, because I as center, just because I haven't seen his potential come out yet this year. I think he's definitely capable of more. But I think if you put him with two big guys like Heineman and Armia, that's who I have here, with maybe the in and out player being RHP, they're guys that are going to provide energy. And I think that somebody with the speed that Newhook has can get those guys going, and they can get them the puck quickly as well. So those are my slight variation to your lineups. But like I said, I think come trade deadline time, Coach, it's going to be a different story, and we'll be redoing and revisiting these lineups again.
Yeah. When you see that, you have to send down Condora,
Condora's number one, yeah.
right? And then after that, you have to cut Pesada or Armia, because
That's
that
right.
give 14 forward right there. So Montreal have to take a decision about that. So I just want to clarify that situation. I think the easy way is maybe because now everybody have to be on the NHL. Now they can go with another direction. They can also go with a defenseman back in Laval, play as 6, but it's not the smarting things to
Tough.
do, right?
Yeah.
To do that. But
The other
Yes.
thought I had earlier, sorry to cut you off, Coach. The other thought I had earlier in the year also was that you could. I always thought it would be interesting to see what Armia would look like with Laine together. Two Finns that have played together in the past, had some success playing with each other internationally. Maybe he wakes Armia up a little bit, so you could maybe put Armia in Newhook's spot, and then put Newhook in Dvorak's spot, and then I guess Dvorak ends up on the bench. But anyways, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you there, Coach. I apologize.
no, that's good. That's perfectly about that. Marcus said that you keep Armia over Pesada. I think
Yeah.
for me,
yeah.
yes, because I think Heineman play better at Pesada, skill wise, talent wise, and he bring almost the same kind of the role of Pesada, in my opinion. So I think they will have to let go Pesada, put him on the waiver or trade him. That would be the best thing for that. Now said that,
But Armia's contract's up too. So are you
Yeah,
re-signing
you have to
Armia?
be-
no, they will trade him, but the time I don't think so. They will send him to Laval, right? So at least a trade. I see the easy ways to send more Pesada out and then keep Armia until they trade him. Every time that. Now I want to bring you guys for the following year, and that will answer you guys the question why. I didn't talk about this, but why Devin trade Emin and Emin? Marcus said, why you go to do that? And the answer behind that is because you have no spot next year in the lineup for the Montreal Canadiens. So you can get his best value right now if you want to go that direction. Not so you have to, but I believe for Devin next season, what he looked like. We have the same first line. We have Suzuki, Sakaski, and Caulfield. Now, Dimitrov show up now. We still have Kirby Doc, and now still have Laine or his last year contract. The third line now we have Kapanen with Joshua Roy and Newhook. Then we have Anderson, Evans, and Gallagher. Question about that is we don't see Owen Beck. We don't see Heineman. Two next prospect for the Montreal Canadiens on the pipeline. The rest is where's Michael Edge? He's not going to be ready, guys. I don't see any other prospect from Montreal to jump in with the lineup. So that will give you guys that possibility there. And then So what is look like you behind that idea, Devin? And then in our tab, you're going to give us what do you think about that lineup?
So a few things there. Obviously, for me, Beck, I don't think, that we need to rush Beck to the NHL. I don't think it would be the end of the world if he played another season in the AHL. Now, that said, if you can find a way to get rid of, and I say get rid of is probably the wrong terminology, but if you can find a way to trade, Josh Anderson and open up a spot on that fourth line, and you can slide Evans over to the wing and put Beck as your fourth line center, then I'm all for that. The reason though, the reason Gallagher and Anderson are there is because, their contracts aren't going anywhere. And, frankly, I don't know that Montreal is going to have an easy time getting rid of those contracts. So, if you can get rid of those contracts, if you can find a way to get Josh Anderson off the books, then yeah, I certainly wouldn't have a problem with, seeing an Owen Beck or a Luke Tuck, whoever. But again, I don't think it would be the end of the world for Owen Beck to play 2 years in the AHL, while Anderson and Gallagher's contracts expire. The other thing is, to me, if Joshua Roy isn't playing in the NHL next year, you have to start considering whether or not he's going to work out or not. I think he is going to work out. I like the player. I think he's good. I think he, again, like I said earlier, this evening when we were talking earlier, if you've got Joshua Roy as your third line, on your third line, and he's playing what he's capable of playing, I think you've got a pretty good hockey team. So to me, if he's not up in the NHL next year, I think that's a bit of a problem as far as his progression and development goes. Again, I think Kapanen, has a little bit, of experience under his belt now. He's back playing in Sweden, and he'll come back hopefully next year. And again, I mean, if that's your third line for the next 4, 5, 6 years, again, I don't know if you're going to show my next graphic or not, Coach, but if that's your third line for, the next 5, 6, 7 years, that's a contending third line if those guys are all playing up to their abilities. I think we talked about earlier. Yeah. Well, I mean, if Kapanen showed us what he's capable of this year, but he also showed us that he's probably not quite ready yet. I wasn't a huge fan of them keeping him with the team, not because I didn't think he was good enough, but because I just thought it was a waste of his development time to have him sort of in and out of the lineup and down on the fourth line. And, I thought that he probably would have been better served to be sent back to Sweden. But, if Kapanen becomes the player that we think he's capable of and that he's shown us he's capable of being, then I think that's a pretty solid third line. I'm more of a fan of Newhook than I think a lot of people are. I like his game. I think that, him playing this year on a line with Doc and Laine, again, two big guys, he's, the fast jitterbug guy who can go and get pucks along the boards and get them, get the puck to those guys, I think is good. But again, that is a pretty solid third line for me next year. Do we know that Demidov is going to just step into the NHL next year? I don't know. I think they're going to give him a shot. They'll give him and that's what everybody hopes for. But again, there's a lot of ifs in this lineup. But again, this is sort of, what I view for next year. And then again, I don't know, like I said, Coach, whether you're going to show the next graph for, going after that. But I also, one other thing I just want to say, in relation to both this lineup and the previous one, I'm not a huge fan of shuffling the lines. For me, one of the reasons why Kirby Dach is struggling as much as he is because there's no consistency. He's not playing with the same guys, for more than a game. Like, to me, again, I'm not the coach. I'm not the coach in this live, nor am I the coach of the Montreal Canadiens. But I would say to Kirby Dach, I would say, Kirby, listen, we're going to put you on a line. We're going to put you out there with Newhook and Laine, and you're going to be there for 5 games or 6 games or 10 games. We're not going to touch you. You go out, regardless of what happens, we're going to give you ice time and you're going to play on that line. Go out there, be comfortable, get some chemistry going with those guys. And we're going to leave you alone to play on that line. We're going to put you at center and you're just going to go out there and play. And, we're not, we're still in development mode to a certain degree. So if if that hurts us a little bit, we don't care. We want you to go out there and we want you to feel comfortable on the ice and play your game. That's to me the ideal situation for Kirby Dach, and that's to me the best way to get him out of his funk. And like Coach said earlier, this first line was one of the most productive lines in the NHL last year, and so I get
leave
that
him alone.
You're trying to jumpstart the other lines by whatever, but leave those guys alone. Let them play. Like I don't leave those guys together. Like they are capable. So I get that maybe you're trying to do something to jumpstart Kirby Dach, or you're going to move him up to the first line, or you're going to do this, but you're kind of throwing the baby out with the bathwater a little bit when you do that, right? You're throwing out your best asset in order to try and turn, one of your other assets into something. And now, here we are 20 games into the season, and what are the lines? Well, what are the lines for the Montreal Canadiens right now? We have no idea. Saturday night, can anybody confidently say they know what the lines are going to be on Saturday night? We don't even know realistically what one of the lines is going to be. So
yeah, I think the biggest dilemma in my eyes is Kirby Dach, right? Right now, I think he's his worst enemy. He's really playing inside his own head. I think he wants to do so much more, but there's a few factors that are kicking in that are not allowing him to reach that place that he wants to go in his own head. And that is, number one, coming back from a serious injury takes time, number one. Number two, mixing the lineups. I agree with you about that, Devin. I stated it earlier as well. It's not always the best practice. I know you're trying to establish chemistry between players, but that's why you have exhibition games and preseason, and you try things at that point or very early in the year. But as you get into, I'd say the last 3 quarters of the season, there should be more stability there. And number three, it's an evaluation year for Dach in my eyes. We have to see whether he can handle the role of being the 2C on this team or not. It's okay if he doesn't, in my eyes. I think some people will consider it a failure, but I think if he doesn't handle the 2C with the expectation that we have for him, he's going to be a good winger. He's going to be a solid winger, and he doesn't have to overanalyze the game if you're a winger. I think as a centerman, you have more responsibility, both offensively, defensively, getting your wingers going and sort of establishing, a routine and a game going forward. So to me, it's a big evaluation with Kirby Dach this year, and I think he's the pivotal piece that will establish what these lineups will look like in the future. The others, I agree with your assessment of Roy, without a doubt. If he's ready and he's on the third line, that's an excellent position for him to be in. I'm not as 100% sure about Kapanen, especially at center. I think he came out with fire this year, which was great, but we also can't lose sight of the fact that he did play all summer as well. So he was a little bit above everybody else when the training started. But we saw that his game went down a little bit. But again, nothing to be worried about. I like Kapanen. He just he needs that extra year to sort of harness his skills a little bit. But it's hard. It's hard to project because you just don't know what direction Hughes will take with the team. Injuries always come into play. Are they able to pull off a trade at trade deadline time that will change the whole landscape of how and who plays where? So a lot of factors go into it, and we'll wait and see. But that's where we're at right now.
I'm sorry,
Coach?
guys. Answering, we have a trade between Mike Madison and Philip Roenick and the chat.
Well, a lot of teams would love to have Madison.
The problem behind that is like, yes, I think fix the problem. You get younger, you go to the right defenseman, but you cannot give guys a Roenick $7.25 million for the next 4 years.
Yeah. I agree with that.
That's the problem behind that.
I think
So,
there's-
I
I think there's a lot to be said too for the chemistry of this team. Like these, Marty St. Louis talks all the time about family, and to me, again, another interesting aspect of the rebuild is the atmosphere and the environment and the group that they're building, whether it's on the ice or off the ice. And I think people underestimate what role Mike Matheson plays in that family. David Savard might be the grandpa, but Mike Matheson is sort of like the uncle that everybody loves. Like he's just, there's a reason why he plays 25, 26, 27 minutes a game, right? Like he's an important guy on this team on and off the ice. The fact that he's, Quebecois, Anglo-Quebecois, like that's like, when's the last time the Canadiens have had, an Anglo-Quebecois guy who was, near the top of, one of the top players on the team who, does his interviews in English and French and, all of this stuff. I think, there's a lot to be said for Matheson. And am I saying that absolutely not? They can never trade him. But I think that the value that the Montreal Canadiens put on Mike Matheson is pretty high.
Yeah. The only problem we said to you, they will have to trade him because they have no spot for him in the future. If Reinhardson cannot become the minute of Mike Madison, we have a problem. Coley better to Madison, and to keep Madison at the third pairing is not a good idea. I think the third pairing need a better physical players as the third pairing. So I think at some point they have to let go Madison. And Montreal Canadiens need to kind of experience defenseman. I think it will be more on the right defenseman. They have to figure out to find someone in NHL to fix that problem until Mayu and Rebacker have both developed properly, but they'll be a part of the lineup for the Montreal Canadiens. But that's my expectation a long term. So, guys, we're going to hit the 10 o'clock. It's now the time to finish with the clash, if you don't mind, in our top and Devin. So, let's move on there. The clash, first of all, Mr. Artap.
It's time for the clash, go! It's time for the clash, go!
Here we go. This is the new intro for the clash. The Wild take the lead 2-1, guys. A goal of Marcus Foligno over the Edmonton Oilers. And the Chicago Blackhawks at the beginning of the third period lead 2-1 against the Panthers. Renault scored his 15th goal of the year. Same number of Leon Tressadol. Interesting to see that. About that. So the clash, Mr. Devin and Artap are the question, and you have to give me absolutely or not allowed. You can not have to disagree or agree. You're just thinking why you believe you are absolutely or you are not allowed. So the first question, guys, is about this one. I'm going to start with Enartap. Montembeault with the Team Canada at the Four Nations.
Well, he's definitely making a claim for it, at least based on the last couple of games. I think now he's got his save percentage over 900. I think he's around 906, 907, something like that. And he's looked a lot sharper, more focused. He doesn't allow a lot of rebounds out. See, the issue here, I would, like right off the top, I would say not at all. But when you look at Team Canada and what they have to choose from, it's not a deep pool to go after. So I'm going to go with absolutely, but it'll probably be the third stringer.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to say somewhere in between absolutely or not at all, but I know that that's not the purpose of this, of you asking it this way. I'll say absolutely because I don't think that Montembeault will do any worse than any of the other goalies that that Team Canada has available to them. Like I said, it's not, if we were asking whether he was good enough to make Team USA, I think, it would be a pretty easy answer. But I don't think he'll do any worse than he's no worse than Aiden Hill. He's going to be no worse than Binnington. He's going to be no worse than than any of the other, Canadian goalies that are available. I'll take it a step forward, Entertab. I think I could see him, being, the first or the second goalie. To me, I think that Marc-Andre Fleury is a perfect candidate for the third goalie. He's probably not going to play, and he will be an unbelievable guy to have in the dressing room and off the ice. So I'll go with absolutely.
I'll go with not allowed. On that one, I believe they're going to take Joey Dakar, will be one of them. I think they're going to look about possible other the rest, but I think definitely they're going to select Marc-Andre Fleury. I'm going to shock everybody on that one, and the reason why, Devin, because you just said I think the third goalie is never going to play any game anyway, right? What he bring on the table, nobody can offer that, and I think this is a guy can challenge you for any moment. He is a winner. Is a guy would be a great teammate for the team Canada, and I think that would be a good asset. Look what he just did right now. He just stopped McDavid on the breakaway by poke the puck, guys. This is a guy the goalie is. So I would take Fleury over Montembeault. So I would say to you, not at all. Here we go. Next one.
Can I say one more thing before we move on?
Yeah,
I don't mean to be. Joey Decourt is American.
No, Joey Dakar is very interesting. Is
Swiss American.
Joey
That's
Dakar.
what I'm looking at right now.
So Joey Dakar, guys, they did some research today, and the dad was born in Canada.
Okay.
He was born Dakar. Joey was born in Boston, and his mom is coming from Swiss, I believe. So he have like a triple, and I'm not sure if his dad have a cheese and talent in our top, so maybe he also a talent, but would be interesting to follow up about that one.
If Joey Decourt is available, I think he absolutely should be Canada's number one.
I agree with you. I agree with you. So,
I would agree with that, but I think it's going to be Binnington. They're going to go with. I mean, he's got the pedigree. He's won a cup, and really he doesn't. In all fairness, he's a goalie that if he has a solid defense, and Canada will have a solid defense, he's not going to hurt you. That's just my take on it.
Here we go.
Unless
Devin,
he loses his mind.
over or under 25 goals? Absolutely or not at all?
Gallagher over 25 goals. I'll say not at all. And I'm just thinking it's great that he's gotten off to the start he has. I can see him reaching 20, 21. But to keep up, I think his shooting percentage is way up there right now. But I don't think he's going to have the ice time that's necessary. The power play opportunities to pad those stats, or at least the goals up there. So I'm going to go with just slightly under 25, maybe around 21, 22. Devin?
Absolutely, 100%, no doubt in my mind. If he stays healthy, this is an easy one. I have this is the easiest question of the night for me. There's no doubt in my mind that if he stays healthy, I mean, so we talk about Gallagher's start this year, but he also, and I'm trying to look it up while I talk to you.
He's
last
got a 21.6% shooting percentage right now. I just don't know if he can keep it up.
Not only does he have 8 goals already this year, I believe he had 8 or 9 goals in the last 12 games of the season last year as well. So this isn't just sort of a sort of flash in the pan. I think that this is who he is now. Like I say in my lives all the time, they say that once you lose a step, you never get it back. I feel like Gallagher lost 2 steps and he's gotten one of those 2 steps back. And as long as they keep him in the role that they have him now, I mean, I know there's a lot of people out there that are saying, oh, let's try Gallagher on the first line or whatever. No. Like Gallagher is doing well because he's playing 12 minutes a game. He's getting, nice, easy ice, not easy ice time, but he's not being overworked. His body is a mess. He's been injured. But now I feel like his injuries are he's cut. His hands feel better. His ankles feel better. I feel like you keep him where he's at. You let him do these things, and I'm all on board for this. We'll come back at the end of the year, and you guys can say how crazy I was, or I can tell you how right I was. But I'm absolutely 100% on this one.
He needs 17 goals in the last 62 games. So I'll give him a 1 goal every 3 games for Gallagher. If he go with 1 goal every 4 games, so I would give him an approximately
22 goals.
15 goals. I'll give him 23 goals. So if I do maths, I learned this from Tap. I have to go under.
Yeah, that's exactly what I did. I projected it in that aspect. But hey, I hope he does it. I hope I'm wrong.
Oh, I not said it's I'm right too, but we see. That's something we have to take a note about this. I could put 20 goals, but it was too easy at 20 goals. So that's the reason I put 25. Would be a bit difficult. So
just about getting guys, I made a mistake. He didn't have that many goals in his last 10 games last year. It was points that he had in his last 10 games last year. So I just want to make sure that somebody doesn't come back and say, oh, Devin screwed up his stats. But
I believe if you do the same exercise, I think Caulfield, he finished strong, and then you have the goal this season. Here we go. Devin, Gallagher, more goal over Sakoski.
now this is a hard one.
He's got one right now, right?
I'm going to say not at all. I mean, Slavkovsky, I think, is doing fine. Obviously, he's not scoring goals, but he's still putting up points. I think he's still involved. He's getting his chances. I think we saw last year that, when he turned it on, his second half last year was spectacular. So I think that I'm gonna say Slavkovsky will finish the season with more goals than Brendan Gallagher. So not at all.
I agree with that as well. I think Slavkovsky, once he gets it into beast mode like he did second half of last year, he's going to be very difficult to stop. And he's a guy that constantly wants to learn and improve his game. He's going to have those opportunities that I said, somebody like Gallagher wouldn't, and that is being on the power play unit. So that should help him get those goals. I think it's just a string right now of, even though he's playing decently and he's getting the points, they're not goals, but I suspect that'll change. So I'm going to go with Slavkovsky and say not at all. Coach? Breaking news.
Uh-oh.
Calgary Flames lead 2-0 against the Rangers.
Awesome.
At the half of the game. But what is important to take a note, 33 shots versus 10 for the Flames at the half of the game.
Wow.
This is not like winning, it's like dominate. But can they do this all the way to the end? We'll be interesting about that. If someone knows exactly what's the game on the channel, let me know. I'm watching right now on the Sportsnet, Edmonton, Minnesota. But he has a game on the Calgary. I don't know if it's a TSN, but let me know about that. Here we go, guys. For me, Gallagher, more goal over Sakoski. Both of you said not at all, right?
Right.
Absolutely. Sakoski, guys, not going to reach 20 goals this season, obviously. So that's my answer on that one. Here we go. Mr.
The game
Devin.
is on Sportsnet, Coach. The Calgary game is on Sportsnet. Sportsnet 1.
Okay, thanks so much. Suzuki over or under 80 points? So with enough tap on that one.
Absolutely. Every time people put this guy down and criticize his game, this guy responds. And like I said earlier, being on the first line, being on special team, power play affords him the opportunity to get those point totals up there. I mean, he's the leading scorer on the team. He's got I think 19 points in 19 games. So he's already at a point per game pace. And I suspect he'll surpass last year's total, which I think was 78, if I'm not mistaken. Last
77.
year, or 77. Yeah. So I think he'll hit around 84, 85. So I'll go with absolutely over.
Yeah, I'm on board with that too. Like you said, Intertap, he's at a point per game now after, maybe getting out of the gate a little bit slowly to begin the year. So I think you'll see him continue to improve. I think the return of Laine will help him. I think
Good point.
it's more likely to put that first line back together, which I think will help both him and Slavkovsky start clicking a little bit better. He's too consistent for me. He's one of those guys who he gets it done. Like he never looks spectacular. He's not the fastest skater on the ice. He doesn't, that goal he scored the other day, I'm trying to think which game it was, where he came in the zone and he just kind of cut across the middle and took his time. And then he just beat the goalie with a wrist shot. Like he's just so relaxed. And when he's playing that way, I think he's hard to stop. So, like you said, he's at 19 points in 19 games right now. Last year he was just under a point per game. I think he stays on that pace, and I think he goes over. I'm not going to put a number on it like you did, Intertap. I'm not as brave as you, but I'll say over 80 points.
Awesome.
Say it, Coach.
My first one is not at all, but I think I would go with Devin on that one. When you mentioned about now you have Patrik Laine coming back, they will split the offensive. The other team have to check now two line, so they're not going to focusing on the first line also. So I think I have to go with that one on the over for 80 points. So on that one, the next one, guys, talking about him. Newhook and Dak together. Who has Laine more goal at Newhook Dak together? Enough that. Absolutely not at all.
Well, Doc has one, and I think Newhook has 4, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
That's a tough one. I only say that the immediate response is he will surpass them, but when you think about it a little bit, it's going to take him a while, I think, to sort of get back into game form. Remember, it's not just this year he's missed; he's also missed last year, and hopefully he's resolved a lot of the issues that he was having when he entered the program as well. I think he has, but you never know. Let me go with. I'm going to go with. I just think Doc is going to get better, and I think Newhook will as well. I'm going to go with not at all. I think the Newhook plus Doc will slightly exceed Laine.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with that. I'm going to say not at all, and the reason is this. I mean, there's 2 reasons. One, I think that those 3 guys are probably going to play on a line together. So I think they're all sort of benefit from each other a little bit. I also sort of made a pact with myself even before Laine got injured in preseason that I didn't really want to put much expectation on him from a perspective of goals and production. To me, if Laine, we hear Marty St. Louis talk about it all the time. If he enjoys playing hockey again, and if he is able to manage his mental health and he's able to come to the rink every day and love hockey, for what appears to be the first time in a long time, to me, that's the measure of success for him at this stage. And I think that if that happens, then I think that the goals and the points will come. But I really did promise myself that I wouldn't sort of put a number or put a production expectation on Patrik Laine when they got him. And I think certainly he was on his road to, enjoying himself around the rink. Again, Marty St. Louis talked about that when he got hurt, that the worst part about him getting hurt in preseason was that the kid was showing up to the rink every day and loving it. And now all of a sudden, he can't do it anymore. And so I think from that perspective, I'm excited to see what he can do. But again, in the interest of not putting any type of production expectations on Patrik Laine, I'm going to say not at all.
The way the Flame play right now against the Rangers, they win the Stanley Cup, the Flame this year. It's like they are all over them. Like the Flame right now,
As long as
the Rangers, they look like an all 5 yellow cone. And it's like a practice the morning. It's crazy. I never see the Rangers play so bad like that. It's only 2-0, by the way. And it's 35 shot versus 10 right now.
yeah, as long as they finish 11th from the bottom, we're happy. Go Calgary, go.
I'll go with not at all on that one, of course. On that one. The last one, guys. If I won, I don't know if I have this one. David Savard played a full year with the Montreal Canadiens.
Want me to go first?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I'm going to say not at all. I think he will have significant trade value at the trade deadline. I get that you're getting rid of one of your only right-handed defensemen, which is dangerous, but also increases his trade value. One of the things I took out of not last game, but the game before that, was that the Canadiens can play a good game without Savard. Like Savard, to me, has been sort of, again, I said, I referred to him earlier as the grandpa, right? Savard has always been the guy who you put out there with the young guy who needs to be protected. And that, I'm trying to think who did they play game before last?
Columbus, was it Columbus?
Yeah, the Columbus game, right? So they announced he was, Struble was supposed to be sat out for Barron, and then at the last minute they said that Savard was out, so that Struble came back in the lineup, and so you had all of a sudden a lineup that had Bear, and so all of a sudden Gooley and Hudson kind of didn't really have their David. So I think that what that did, long way to say that I think it showed the team that I think they can live without David Savard. I like him. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that he's not any good, but I think, they don't need that protector as much anymore. They don't need that sort of that steady force that's going to counteract the so-called riskiness of Lane Hudson and the young players. Are they like Jack-Eye and Struble are playing great together. They're fine. Gooley and Hudson together have looked really, really special. So have Matheson and Hudson. So again, I think that there will be a big trade value for Savard at the trade deadline. And I think that the Canadiens it'll be too tempting for them to keep him. I think they will trade him.
Yeah, I would agree with that as well, Devin. As much as I love Savard, I think when you're managing a team, you have to think what's best for the team. And I think that if there will be at trade deadline time, there will be teams out there that want Savard as a third pairing on their team to sort of solidify the core group, especially for penalty killing purposes, and he's very good at that role. But his speed has reduced, and he's not as physical as he used to be. So I think that whatever offer they'll get for him, hopefully it's a decent offer, and they'll let him go, because the idea is if Mailloux develops in the fashion that he's supposed to, by trade deadline time he might be ready to step in. And at the earliest. Otherwise, it'll be next year.
Yeah. I will not trade Savard for a third round pick, a fourth round pick, or fifth round pick. If it's a first, a second, I trade Savard.
Yeah, you'll get a second, I think.
I think
you'll get a
you will
second.
get that. I mean, he is, a guy with his experience. Stanley Cup winner, yes, right, for Tampa.
Yes.
Yeah, Stanley Cup winner for Tampa. Who's got the pedigree and a right-handed shot. Like, as far as I know, the right-handed shot defensemen that are going to be available at the trade deadline are like nobody and nobody. I think his value, I think, will be, again, I'm with you, Coach. If it's a third, or if even a third or fourth round pick, no, keep him. But if you're getting a first or second round pick for him, I think you can get a first round pick for him, honestly.
So we know we have Madison
Awesome.
and we have, I'm sorry enough, that we have Madison and Savard, right? I don't think it would be benefit for the Montreal to trade Madison and Savard. I think they need to keep one of them. So my question to you is this part. Is, do you think, or it would be better for the Montreal to keep Madison as a right defenseman over David Savard as a right defenseman as a third pairing? So this is the question. Do you think Madison should stay with the Montreal over Savard if he play on the right side and not on the left side?
I do. I think. I think Matheson has more gas in the tank. I think Matheson brings a more complete game. I think that Matheson's going to be on your power play. He's going to be on your penalty kill. He's going to play 25, 26 minutes a game. He's not he's not going to break down the way. I mean, was there 4 years difference in their age, something like that? I keep Matheson. I think, yeah. Again, it's not a negative take on Savard. I like him just fine. But I think if I had to choose between the two, I think that even with the caveat of Savard or Matheson having to play on his off wing, I think I still do that. I still keep him.
Enough that.
Yeah, I mean, when you're looking at it from the perspective of who gets you more, it's obviously going to be somebody like Matheson at the trade deadline time. But we also have to keep in mind it's not about acquiring picks anymore. I think they've done a great job of acquiring those picks over the years. They've drafted relatively well, and let's face it, even if you get a first for, say, Matheson, it's not going to be a high first. So at this point, it's more about managing or making a trade that makes sense to fill other gaps when you do that. So I think if Matheson stays, and probably he will, he's more flexible in terms of the roles that he can fulfill on defense. I think Savard is a little bit more handicapped that way and has just a specific role. So if you can get rid of Savard, I definitely keep Matheson over him.
Can I disagree with that for a second?
3 years younger also.
The 3 years younger. I don't agree that the time for
by the way, Devin, I'm sorry to cut you, but you have my full agreement. You can be disagree all the time again. Enough that. Don't be shy about that. Jump on him. And that'll be okay with me.
I don't agree that the time for gathering draft picks is gone. I think like to me the rebuild never ends, right? Like even if the Canadiens in 4 or 5 years from now win the Stanley Cup, to me that doesn't mean that you go back to being the organization that we were or that the team was, for the last 2 or 3 decades. Like I don't think, like, to me, if eventually, these guys are going to get old, or they're going to want too much money, or they're going to want whatever. So if you can keep the cupboards full, like I said, if somebody wants to trade you a 2026 or a 2027 first round draft pick for David Savard, I don't think, and then of course you can use that as capital as well. So again, like, to me, just because the rebuild ends or comes to a conclusion in the sense that you become a cup contender, I don't think you want to be the Pittsburgh Penguins, where the Pittsburgh Penguins are right now, right? Like you don't want to get to the point where you've got to make a decision about whether you're going to trade away, Malkin and the veterans on that team, because you've got absolutely nothing in the cupboard to replace them. So now you're thinking, well, the best thing that Pittsburgh could do for themselves is to trade Sidney Crosby, because that would get them the biggest return. So for me, I don't think it's ever time to say, well, we don't need draft picks anymore, or we don't need young prospects.
No, you're right. You're right. It's not that absolute. I agree with that. I think that there's a natural replenishment that has to occur. But there's also sort of a game plan or a blueprint that is in place. Like once you have a certain number of contracts, right? Like you look at somebody like Arizona or the old Arizona, now Utah. They've acquired so many firsts and seconds and thirds, and that they're going to have maybe 30, 40 players that they're going to have to sign eventually or trade them away. So what they're doing is they're not progressing to the next level of that development, because all they're doing is acquiring, value in terms of picks. And I think, a couple is good. And I think Montreal will have 2 this year, hopefully their own and Calgary's. But I think there comes the point where now you have to sort of be thinking a little bit more forward and saying, maybe I need to be entering the UFA agency and getting pieces that way so that I complement the younger kids with experience moving forward. That was my only point. But
and I get it. And I think at any time, I think the expectation is that, there's going to come a point where the Canadiens look to sort of fill those last couple holes with UFAs or whatever. But again, to me, the worse, the better you do in drafting and accumulating assets, the less you have to do to fill the holes, because there'll be fewer holes, right? Like if you draft a ton of guys and you do a really good job of scouting, and you get, like if Demidov and Hage don't work out, well, those are holes you might have to fill with UFAs in 2 or 3 years. But if you've done a good job scouting and drafting those guys, well, those are 2 holes that you don't have to fill anymore. So it's, again, I think it comes down to, whether you draft well and whether you scout well and do all those things. But again, to me, I think it's always valuable to keep those cupboards full. And I mean, obviously you've got to understand that, you can only have so many contracts and whatever as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How's
The
Calgary
Rangers
doing?
just scored a goal at 2-1.
Zibanejad? Who?
Lafreniere
jinxed
score
them.
is 8th of the year. No, you have a Calgary is on the phone now with an iPad, so I don't know if it's going to be a review call. Lafreniere
Hopefully they do
question,
better
look
than
around.
Laval.
Hopefully we'll be there. Son of Tap, Devin, we'll be at the end of the show. We passed the time. Devin is already at 11:40. We apologize to keep you late on that one with there. But any of your family, young guy between 18 to 24 works at Costco? Well, if it's the case, it's possible to have a play an NHL one day. So this is maybe the new line. If you want to play in NHL, maybe not only play in the QM, but maybe go as an employee during the summer at Costco. Because now we have 2 players now from Costco play in NHL.
That's amazing, eh?
Look like the goal is good. No review call. So it's 2-1 now for the Calgary Flame. Devin, great performance. To be honest with you, it was amazing. The fans, the people in the chat are really pleased for what you delivered. Great countenance, great conversation. Hopefully, this is not only the first time. You have more time. You can come back when you have a time to join us. You're welcome in the house of the Hockey Nation. And
Anytime.
it would be great to see you. We know you have maybe you can add a bit more, give us again more information if you don't mind, Devin, about how the people can reach you. And the Rangers tied the game, guys, 2-2. Wow.
Who scored?
Yep.
Zibanejad?
I'm going to tell you.
Oh wow, I like that one
Keandre.
going. It's my fantasy hockey, so it's okay. You can put
So
two
it's not
more
mine.
about that one.
Beetle. Oh, Cooley scored on a deflection
Cooley.
from Keandre.
Yeah, Miller have an assist on that one.
Yeah.
Devin, how the people can
Yeah.
reach you?
Yeah. So, I mean, first of all, Coach, thank you so much for inviting me. Like I said, I'm pretty new to this, and to have the opportunity to come on with you guys, and for you to give me the exposure and expose me to your fan base and your group of people, I really appreciate that. It's been a great time. You said I did a great job. I did notice that one person in the comments suggested that you should trade me for Marco. But again, anyways, I don't. Marco's pretty good, so I'll take that as a compliment. So, yeah, if you want to reach me, guys, like I said, you can find me on most social media platforms under some variation of Recliner Sports. It's usually either Recliner Sports or Recliner Sports 4. I'm on TikTok. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Twitch, Discord, everything. YouTube, of course. The YouTube show, which is pretty new. I've been doing it for I guess kind of since the beginning of the year. We do a show called Habs After Dark, which basically starts 15 minutes or so after every Montreal Canadiens game. I go on a bit of a 10 or 15 minute monologue about the game and tell you guys a little bit about the game, and then we sort of take questions and comments and do our own thing that way. So that's pretty much me. I've stopped doing the TikTok lives. I for those of you who were regulars on my TikTok lives, I apologize for that. It wasn't very good for my mental health doing TikTok lives, just because of a lot of the trolling and stuff that goes on over there. So hopefully, so far YouTube's been a much better platform for me. It's a lot more respectful, and it's a lot easier. And I love this sort of what coach is teaching me and coaching me on a lot of how to use this software as well, to be able to do some pretty cool stuff as far as graphics and things like that too. So I'm hoping to do some more stuff with my YouTube channel, doing some interviews and having other people on. But again, I appreciate you inviting me, Coach. You really didn't have to do that. And it's been a great time. I've enjoyed it. I could literally, don't worry about it being too late for me. I could talk like this all night. So hopefully you'll have me back sometime. I would definitely love to do it again. Entertap as well. It's funny. I met Entertap originally on Habs After Dark. He came into Habs After Dark, and I didn't even draw the connection between the two of you. And so now it's kind of cool to be here hanging out with the both of you. So I appreciate it, and very much.
It was definitely a pleasure tonight, Devin, and I always enjoy coming into your podcast as well. We've had some very good conversations there, and hopefully you'll be able to join us in the future as well.
Do you do
like I said,
do you do show, Devin, when Montreal does not play?
I don't,
No,
and I'm going to start doing that. I'm going to start doing some stuff like that as well, either videos or doing a live show. I do have some ideas of things
So
that
my
I'd like
point
to
behind
do.
that is like when we don't have Montreal play, Laval does not play, we have a show like the weekly report, and we have the notebook. So you're welcome to join us sometime. Sunday night, it's in our tap with me, and the notebook is one day Montreal does not play, Tuesday, Wednesday. So you're welcome to join us at any time, and of course we can talk on the Twitter, of course. So
I would love to. Yeah, like I said, anytime you want to have me on, you say the word. I mean, like I said, unless I'm going live with my own show, I'm happy to do it. I mean, obviously, there's other things in my life that sometimes, my wife kind of wants me to do stuff sometimes too. But maybe I'll even come over to Thailand and hang out with you on the beach or something.
Sorry about that. I put the song too
My
fast.
wife was making fun of me today. My wife was making fun of me today, Coach, because I told her that you do all kinds of YouTube stuff, and that you're living in Thailand, and she knows that's been a bucket list thing of mine, is to spend time in Southeast Asia. So so she's kind of laughing. She's like, "Oh, you found your hero." So
Thanks so much. One day we'll explain to you a little bit more about cheese, but there's going to be another story about that one over there. Great performance of Devin tonight. Mr. Top, always a pleasure to have you aboard. I think we'll see you
Pleasure
next
is mine.
game. It's Sunday night, Mr. Top, for the weekly report. We want to thank both of you. We appreciate a lot. But before we leave, we have to tell you, because now you are part of this, Mr. Devin. You are awesome. You are amazing. You are the best. And remember, you have greatness inside of you. Here we go. This is the end of the show tonight, Devin. We wish you an amazing, great night. I look forward to see you next time. Until the next time, Mr. Natap, we'll see you Sunday night. Both of you had an amazing, great night. And don't forget, Mr. Natap, be well, be healthy. Find a way not only dominate your day, but find a way to dominate the second half. Or what?
You're 20-25.
Have a great night, everybody. See you next time tomorrow night. Laval Rocket, Belleville Senator.
Peace out, guys.
Good night, everyone.
Good night. The Hockey Nation, I sure want to tell you one more thing, sir. We love you, friends. Had an amazing, great night, everybody. See you tomorrow night, 7 o'clock at the Laval Rocket, Belleville. Saturday night, Montreal play again. The Vegas go tonight. And Sunday night, 8:30 with my friend Enartap. We want to thank the moderator Luciano, Run with Kings. And in the chat tonight, we want to thank also Marco to be with us tonight. RJ Calabro at the news update was an excellent, another great night for him. All the people in the chat, N26 and fire tonight. For you, late, but on fire tonight. Bob Smith, constant delivery. PLW show up at the last minute. Thanks so much to be with us. Don't forget, please, to check out with the lights if you don't mind. And many others that was in the chat. Ronnie show up late. Peter Poinsono was with us. AK was with us tonight. And then we want to thank everybody for part of the show. Don't forget again to be back tomorrow night, 7 o'clock. Oh. Booyah!